Hello there, welcome to Craft with Fee. We're doing the Woodland Stitchalong and we're up to week 6, and this week we're going to be making a beautiful sew-in purse frame. Now I know a lot of you have been waiting for this one. This is the gorgeous little bunny purse frame that we're going to be using. I have a little helper today. We have Marlo here in the office, don't we? He's having a bit of a chat, so if you hear him talking, don't be alarmed. Okay, so this frame is 12.5 centimetres. That's the way that it's been measured by the manufacturer. You can get these at a number of places. These bunny ones in particular are in stock at Kitty Rose Cottage. I'm going to put a link for the frames down in the description box. I'm also going to be putting a link in there to the free purse frame template that you can download. But there is also a paid download that you can buy, which is $3, and that has all of the instructions. As you can see here, it's a full pattern to make this project. It also has the pattern sheet, which included has the stitchery design. It also has all of the applique letters, both in forward and reverse, so that you could stitch these if you wanted to, or you could also use the reversed ones to applique. And you'll see that there's the whole set of those in the pattern as well. So they are quite handy, not just for this project, but you could use them for lots of different projects into the future. Having that alphabet would be quite beneficial. Okie dokie. So how do you get this download? Well, you just go to fifiandme.com and you can download it. The cost is just $3 Australian. And yeah, you just download it straight to your computer and you can print it out. Of course, if you don't have a printer and you like to work from a printed pattern, we also have a printed pattern option in there where you can buy the supplies to make this purse frame. At this moment, we don't have the purse frames in stock. We've got little bird ones on their way. Once they arrive, I'll also pop those into the shop. But you can buy the little kit, which will have the fabric printed on it with the stitchery design, the outside fabric, the inside fabric, the felt, all of those things. But you can go there and have a look in the shop anyway and you'll find them. But anyway, without any further ado, let's get into this project. So what you'll need is the template for this project. And I have gone ahead and already cut out my template. And that's what you need to do. Now, I usually print mine onto cardboard. You can trace it off, use some template plastic. I do mention that in the pattern so that you can work out how to do that. But that's the first thing that you need to do, is to cut out that pattern. Make sure that you transfer a mark on either side here. You don't need to put the line all the way through, but just a line either side, and you also need that halfway point as well. Okay, so you will also need, and all of these measurements will be in the instruction sheet, you will need some main fabric, and I've chosen this beautiful Woodland hazel sage, which is just gorgeous. I love roses, as everybody knows. So we're going to need a piece which is 7.5 inches square. We're also going to need a piece for the front, and this piece is 7.5 inches by 4 inches. You're also then going to need a piece of chambray, which is what I have stitched on. You can use hanky linen, you can use whatever you want. Of course, the chambray will need an iron-on transfer or to be already pre-printed, which it will be in the kit, because you can't actually see through it very well to stitch on it, but it's beautiful to stitch on and it looks amazing when it's stitched on. So now the measurement of this piece here is 7.5 by 4 inches. So you will need that. You will also need 2 squares of fusible wadding. I'm using Parlan, 7.5 inches square for those as well. So what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to sew the 2 pieces for the front of the purse together. So we're going to sew the piece of hazel sage at the top, and then we're going to sew the piece of chambray to the bottom. So I'll do that and I'll come back. Okay, and there we go. So we have our sewn line along here. I've pressed it with an iron to give it a nice, neat finish. I forgot to mention before that you also need some lining pieces. Did I tell you that? I don't think I did, but anyway, you need some lining of some description, and you need 2 pieces that are 7.5 inches square or thereabouts. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a pencil and we're going to take our template. And this line here on the bottom, this line that runs through the bottom of your template, that's the line that I want you to match up to your sewn line. And then all you're going to do is to trace around your template. Whoops. My cardboard I'm using is not very thick this time, so I'm having trouble finding the edge of it, but that's okay. That'll teach me to not want to put stronger cardboard in the printer and get up and actually do it. Okay. So hopefully I've got that there. Yep, so what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this mark here. So we're going to transfer that onto the pattern, and then we're going to go across to the other side. Now this is very important that we get this accurate. We're going to trace that line there. We're also going to pop a line there as well through the centre. Okay, so now you can see hopefully that I have the outline of my purse there. So now it's time to do your iron-on transfer, or if you already have the pre-printed fabric to get your design stitched. But so what we're going to do with the iron-on transfer is I've cut mine down, as you can see there. I've also folded it in half through here so that I could find the halfway point, and I could make sure that it was going to be fairly well centered. And if you're worried about finding the halfway point, what I did with my template was I folded it in half, and then you can just make a little mark here at the bottom, and that's what you can use to line up your little iron-on transfer. So you need to make sure that the iron-on transfer is at least 1/2 inch from the bottom of your purse. And so that's sort of around about there. Okay, so once you've traced on your stitchery, or you put your iron-on transfer onto this piece here, you will then take it over to the ironing board, and you will fuse a piece of parlan to the back. Okay, and that will just give the purse some stability. While you're at the ironing board, you can do the same thing with your other piece of the sage, which is now going to be your backing fabric. And then you can fuse it on, and then we're going to come back and trace the shape out once again. Okay, so we now have it fused, and I've also traced the purse shape once again onto the fabric. So we're going to cut it out on the trace line. Now we're going to repeat this exact same thing for both pieces of lining. So we're going to end up with 4 purse shapes. One is going to be this piece, which is the back of our purse. Then you're going to have the piece that is the front of your purse, which is the piece that we've stitched on and we have pieced. And I'll show you mine in a moment. And then you'll have your 2 pieces of lining. Now with your front of your purse, once you've done your stitchery, we can then decide whether or not we're going to pop an applique on it. I decided I was going to make the purse for myself, so I have done an F, which I'll show you in a moment. So what we do with that is we just go to the reversed image of the letter that we want on the pattern sheet, and I will grab the pattern sheet. So we need the reversed image. Let me find it. Okay, so we take our applique paper, and we want the papery side of our applique paper. If you're buying the kit, you'll have a small piece of this in there. And then we just trace off the letter that we want, and then we cut it out roughly. We then fuse it to the back side of our piece of felt or wool. Then we cut it out on the trace line, peel it off, peel the paper off, and then we have our lovely F, as you can see there. And hopefully you can see on there that I have blanket stitched mine with 2 strands of matching embroidery thread, and it's come up quite nice. So you can see that I've used a creamy ecru coloured thread for my stitching, which just goes beautifully with this fabric. It's got like a bit of a cream undertone to it, and with the red, which comes out in these beautiful flowers, I think it's a beautiful look. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to make some marriages. We are going to marry up a piece of lining, and you can see here that I have transferred those 2 marks, and we're going to lay the piece of lining with the right side facing down onto the right side of the purse. You can see there. Now we want to make sure that we're matching up the sides really well. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but there's a kookaburra outside. He's having a real good talk. Okay, and then I'm going to grab some pins. Let me grab some pins. And we are going to pin across the top here. And then we're going to take this off to the sewing machine. And we're going to start sewing at this first mark here. And then we're going to stitch all the way around the top of our purse down to this second mark. We're going to make sure we do a locking stitch at both points. Okay, and then we're going to do the exact same thing to the back piece. And you can see that I also have the pattern marks here have been transferred, and so that'll be the same process as for the front. So I'll go and stitch those on the machine, and then we'll come back. And there we have all sewn around here. Now I have gone through and done a tiny little clipping just to make sure that it sits, because it's quite a curve there, just so it sits nice when we turn it in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to open out the purse. And both sides we're going to do like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to match up the outer parts of the purse to begin with. And we're going to make sure that these bits here, and hopefully you can see that on camera, are matched up beautifully. And that is where we're going to start sewing, where we stopped sewing before. So I'm just going to pop a clip in that area there. And then I'm going to go over to the other side. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pull out this lining. So, hi Milo. He thinks I'm talking to him. So that they're nice and straight there like that. And we're going to pop another clip in there. Okay. And you can see there that those are the curve on the purse match, which is a relief. So I'm going to pop a clip in there. And we're just going to do the same thing all the way around. Now, it might turn out that you haven't cut completely straight. Like I can see there that mine's going to be out just fractionally. You sort of have to push it all down. Tiny little bit there. That's fine. You can trim that away. Hey, Marlo. Wish I could show you. He's sitting at the sewing machine chair. He really is being a really good help today, aren't you? Okay, so we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, if Marlo will give me back my chair. And I'm going to stitch all the way around with a 1/4 inch seam. And there we go. We've got our lovely 1/4 inch seam all the way around. So I am going to clip into that little corner there. There's sort of like a little bend. And I'm just going to give it a little bit of I'll get my smaller scissors. Just going to give it all a little bit of a cut just around those corners, just so that we get it to sit beautifully when we go to turn it. Because you've got a bit of bulk there with the fusible parlan, it will need to sort of have a little bit of help to sit perfectly. Okay, so just stitch back from that stitch line. Don't go too close because you'll find you'll make yourself a nice big hole. But just take your time. Okay, so just to give you some idea of where we're at, we now have the body of our purse in here all stitched. You can see here that our seams meet beautifully. So we're going to do the exact same process with the lining of the purse, but this time we are going to leave a gap for turning. So we're going to match up these sections here, and this of course is where we're going to start our sewing. So we will pop a clip in there and then around this little bend here. And then we're going to leave a hole for turning. Now I'm going to leave about a 2-inch gap in the base. Okay, it doesn't really matter where it is, but just enough for you to turn. Now if you think that you need a bit more space to turn, that's absolutely fine. You determine how much space you will need. I suppose based on the size of your fingers, whether or not you can get your fingers in to turn. Okay, so we're just going to, as I said, do the same thing. So I'll go and do that, and then I'll come back. And there we go. We've got it all sewn, and I have clipped those curves once again. So now it's time for the big reveal. So we're going to get all of this through our turning hole. And as I said, you'll need to be a little bit patient because there's quite a bit of bulk to come through this hole. So just take your time and make sure that you're not damaging your fabric, because it can quite easily tear. Okay. Now let me see if I can find my trusty paintbrush. I have one here. I usually have one within arm's reach. So this is what I'm going to use just to poke out those lovely corners. And that bit of clipping that we've done will help your fabric to lay beautifully on your seam. Okay. And there we go. Make sure you're poking it all out so we keep the shape of our purse. Okay, and then we can take our lining piece and go and stitch this piece closed. Now I always like to press it before I do that. And while you're at the ironing board, I suggest that you also press around the top of the purse frame. Sorry, not the purse frame, the purse, which is going to go into the frame. So this is this piece here. So give that a nice press as well on both sides so that you get a nice finish, and then it's going to make it a lot easier for you to sew the frame in if you've got a nice crisp edge. Okay, so just to repeat what we're going to do, we're going to go and iron these sections here, these two sections here, and we're also going to iron our closure area there and then stitch it down. And there we go, our lining is now all stitched. All you simply do now is to poke that lining down into your purse. Make sure that it reaches the corners. Use your hand there to just make sure it's in properly. And that's your finished purse. So you should have lovely, neat sides here. You can see there's no stitching showing. It's all enclosed and it looks great. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find the halfway point on the front and on the back of our purse. And all we need to do is just give it a little finger press once we've folded it in half. Now you can, if you want, place a tiny pencil mark there. Make sure I've got this halfway point here again on the back. And this is just to make sure that we're going to be getting our purse nice and straight, which I think the easier way would be to do that. Okay, right, so a 12.5 centimetre purse frame usually has 32 stitch holes. So we need to find where the 16th hole is. And we're going to start by on the back of our purse frame here. And we're going to match up the 16th hole with our halfway point on our fabric. Okay, so that halfway point is there. So we'll find the 16th hole. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, where my finger is. That looked about the halfway point, but I wasn't certain. Okay, so line up the 16th hole with your mark on your purse and grab some embroidery thread in a nice bright colour that you can see. And then you're going to poke your needle up underneath where your fabric's under the cusp. And then we are going to stitch the purse frame in place. Now these are just holding stitches. These are just to hold your little purse frame in place. Now you will find that it will easily go up inside that little frame there. It slides in perfectly, so you don't have to worry about it not doing that. Another little trick for you is use your clips, get your clips, and even though they don't hold a lot of your purse frame in place, they will hold some of it. The actual edge of the clip will hold it. See that you can keep it there nice and taut, and it actually acts as a finger for you. Okay, so we're just going to get those couple of stitches up into this purse frame just to hold it in place, so that when it comes time to stitch it all down in a moment with our proper thread, we've got it holding itself in the halfway point, because we need to start at one end and finish at the other, obviously, but we need to make sure. I'm having trouble doing this through the camera. I thought that might be an issue. if we started at one side and didn't have the halfway point matched up, you would have it crooked by the time you get to the other end, and I know that from personal experience. So believe me when I say that you need to find the halfway point. Oh gosh, I wish you knew how hard this was through the camera. It's so difficult because I can't put my head over my work. But anyway, you get the idea of what I'm trying to do. There we go, finally got one in. So we're just going to do a couple of holding stitches, okay? And then we can just tie it off. And you can see how this is how it's going to look anyway. So doing it in the hot pink thread hopefully will show you what the stitches are going to look like. Now make sure that you're using a nice strong thread. I'm just going to be using a matching DMC cotton. I'm going to use 2 strands of it. And hopefully that is all I will need. So now I'm just going to cut off my holding stitch with quite a long thread, and I'm going to repeat that process on the other side just to make sure that I've got those 2 halfway points. So then when you have got your holding stitches in, let me just grab a couple of clips and pop them in there so that you can imagine, because I'm not going to do this part on camera because I really do need to have my head over it because I'm blind, literally getting blinder as time goes on. So you just need to get your purse frame, find that halfway point there like so, and then we're going to start with our thread, our permanent thread, the one we're going to leave in this purse, and we're going to hide our knot up underneath, and we are going to just tack this on up through one hole, back through the other, all the way around. Then we'll do the same for the other side, and then we can remove our holding stitches that are holding your little purse frame in place in the correct position. Okay, now the other trick I'll tell you about now is that if you're having trouble getting it to poke up underneath, I don't think you will because the opening is really, it's really quite wide and we haven't got a lot of bulk there. But if you do, you can use a pair of tweezers and you can just push your fabric up as you're stitching. Now this piece here is to hide your stitches, so you need to put your needle through on an angle so that it is, let me just get it here like this, so that you are hiding your stitches. Let me just poke that through like so. Okay, so oops, I haven't got a knot in it, but you'll see what I mean. So it's hiding your stitches up through in here. It really is a fiddly job. Imagine that's got a knot in it, but that is going to be hidden up into there. Okay, so I'm going to go off and do mine, and I'll come back and show you the finished product. But just as a word of warning, don't skip this step. This is the piece that will keep you sane, this particular piece of information, because if you don't have a holding stitch and you haven't found the center of your purse, it will be very difficult to sew it on. But don't be scared by it because it is not a difficult process if you know the little tricks and lurks as you go along. The measurements, hopefully I've designed the pattern, well I know I have designed the pattern because I've tested it, to fit this purse frame perfectly. Gosh, I'm losing my words. So you won't have any trouble with it fitting in there perfectly. So I'll come back and show you what it's like when it's done. And there we go, it's all stitched. Now hopefully you can see my stitches there. I tried to pop them up underneath, but I also wanted them to be a little bit more visual so that you can see them. I have used a cream thread, so maybe you can't. But anyhow, this is what the purse looks like. Yay! Isn't it gorgeous? So you can see the stitches there, hopefully, through the frame. But it's a beautiful little purse. Opens out beautifully. There you go. So I hope that you've enjoyed this little tutorial. As I said, you can go to fifiandme.com. You can download the full sheet from there. And I'll have a list of where you can get the frames from down in the description box. That's it for today. See you next time. Bye for now.